everyone. Welcome to the Monte Carlo Television Festival. My guest today is a star on both the big and small screens and is the president of the fiction jury here in Monaco this year. He's very well placed for that role as he created one of the most iconic TV dads in history, Dan Connor, the husband of Roseanne in that sitcom of the same name, and now the star of its spin-off, The Connors, that's heading into its 6th season. John Goodman, hello.
Bonjour.
I should be calling you Mr. President, shouldn't I?
Yes, you should. And nobody should make direct eye contact.
We've taken note, John. We've taken note.
Thank you.
You've been working in television for a long time, since the early 80s. What's your take on the state of the television industry today?
I'm baffled, confused, and just eager to see what's going to happen. It's a great time of change. I mean, I've got the standard network show, the throwback to the old days, and I'm also working for HBO on a show called The Righteous Gemstones. Yeah, which streams on the HBO platform or the Max platform. So I've got a foot in both worlds, and I'm excited to see what happens next because the writing everywhere has really come up to it. It's an amazing time to be here.
And it is rare. There are very few actors who are, in your case, who are both on a network show and on a streaming show. Is there a difference for an actor between the two types of shows?
Well, for me, it's the style in which the 22-minute sitcom is done. It's like a style, like playing farce, playing tragedy. One adapts itself to it. And the other one is a bit more naturalistic. It's both acting and getting paid.
That's very important, isn't it? Let's get back to your first real breakthrough job. You starred on the hit TV show Roseanne that made you a household name in the late 1980s, and it ran through the 90s. Now, that version of that show about a working-class family ran for almost 10 years.
No family was quite like the Connors.
Are you ever sorry we got married?
Every second of my life.
35 years after it first started, it was reinvented again. You're playing in it again now, The Connors, heading into its 6th season. Why do you think Roseanne was such a success back then, and The Connors is still such a success today?
Roseanne was a success back then because of Roseanne. She was unique. No one quite like her had been seen on television, and her motto was, just because we're poor doesn't make us stupid. So the basic premise is we came through everything, all the hardships, with love and laughter. We were lucky it appealed to a lot of people. We also went through a lot of great writers.
So just to situate everyone, the first version of Roseanne ran for 10 years, and then 20 years after it went off the air, it got a reboot with much of the original cast, yourself, also the co-creator Roseanne Barr. But then that show was canceled just a few days after it began when Roseanne posted an infamous tweet, an allegedly racist tweet about an African-American woman who was a senior advisor to the president, Barack Obama, at the time. When you look back at that time and all the fallout from that tweet, what do you think about what happened?
It wasn't so much a specific tweet. Yeah, well, it was, but she had been asked not to be so active on social media, and she's irrepressible. She couldn't help herself. But anyway, it led to them basically shutting down the show, which it's kind of devastated me because I was having a great deal of fun. And oddly enough, the next day I got an offer to do the Righteous Gemstones. So, yeah, I was in shock, but I had the opportunity to go somewhere else. And then the network decided to reestablish the show as The Connors. We're still chugging along. I think we may be coming to an end on it. I'm not sure. It's lasted longer than I thought we would. It was just supposed to be like an 8-show and out thing at one point, and they picked us up again, and they keep picking us up.
So, John, in addition to The Connors, Roseanne, you were on The West Wing, one of my personal favorites. You've done so much work.
I was the president on The West Wing.
The second time you've been a president, then. In addition to all of your great work on television, you have an incredible film career. Of course, you've worked with great directors like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, but the directors most people associate with you are the Coen Brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen. You've been in so many of their movies, from Raising Arizona, Barton Fink, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or my personal favorite, The Big Lebowski in 1998. Why do you think that film has become such a cult classic?
I have no idea. Well, because it's funny. That's exactly why. And everything on the page made it to the screen. there was only like 2 ad libs that I can think of. That their writing is brilliant and they're deadly funny.
And plus, you got some incredible scenes. I think everyone remembers that scene smashing the Corvette. Tell me about that.
That was weird because I didn't know that they had hired out the neighborhood. In other words, I was out there screaming at 3, 4 in the morning, a lot of obscenities, and wrecking 2 Corvettes in the process with a crowbar. And I was scared to death because I didn't realize. I thought everyone would be sleeping in their homes, and I was going to disturb the neighborhood. And I had no idea that they hired out the neighborhood, and everybody was gone.
Fortunate. The Coen Brothers also directed you in Barton Fink, which won a rare 3 awards in France at the Cannes Film Festival, including the very prestigious Palme d'Or. Now, one of the iconic scenes in that movie is when your character is running down the hallway with the fire exploding behind him. Tell me about filming that scene.
Well, it was. I didn't feel like I was in any danger. There were many precautions taken, but unfortunately that day my wife chose to visit the set, and she was about 2 weeks away from delivering our daughter, and she was scared to death. It threw a great scare into her, and she still can't get over it.
Is it true that the Coen Brothers still call you Madman from that movie?
Ethan Coen calls me Madman.
You've also starred in 2 Best Picture Oscar winners, Argo, directed by Ben Affleck, where you brought some comic relief to that film about the U.S. hostage crisis in Iran. You were also in the Oscar winner, The Artist, which is very dear to the heart of French audiences, as it's by French director Michel Hazanavicius. What was it like for you working on a French set? Did you find there was a difference between working on a French set for The Artist as opposed to a purely American set?
We were working on a silent film, and the only barrier was the language. I don't think Jean at the time spoke English, which he does now brilliantly, and I speak no French. But Michel got me through it.
In addition to all of your movies and all of your television work, you do also use your voice quite a bit as a voice actor. You were in one of the best-loved Disney movies, Monsters, Inc., playing Sully. Tell me about working with Billy Crystal on that movie. How did the 2 of you work together?
Billy was the prime mover. What happened was they were recording each of us separately, and somebody decided, maybe Billy came up with a suggestion to put us together, and the energy just, whatever the catalyst was, it exploded. And I just followed Billy basically because he would go off on tangents. He's really brilliant comedic improviser, and he's just a great talent. But I just tail after him, and we had a lot of fun.
And so the 2 of you would work in the booth together, which is quite unusual.
And the energy was out there.
So we're here at the Monte Carlo Television Festival. Do you remember your very first appearance on television?
I do. It was a 1980 or 81 HBO film called The Mystery of the Morro Castle. I've never seen it, but I'm sure I overacted all over the place.
And I understand that when you were first starting out in the 70s in New York, you were friends with another struggling actor who went on to have a huge career, Bruce Willis. Is that true?
It is true. He was a bartender at a place called the Cafe Central, and I was a regular customer at the Cafe Central, and we would talk about acting. And he was one of the funniest people I'd ever met. I think, in my opinion, he was the best bartender in New York, and I knew a lot of bartenders in New York. And everybody loved him. He was a rock star behind the bar. And he came back one day, jumped on me from a balcony in a place, and he got Moonlighting on ABC. And it propelled him to stardom.
Both of you have had incredible careers since then. John, in addition to all of your constantly changing career, you have had a huge physical change over the years. Tell me about that choice when you chose to lose all of that weight. Was that challenging for you? Was that something that you were required to do? And how do you feel today?
No, I kept going. I was on a bad cycle for years and years and years. I would approach 400 pounds in weight. Finally, I decided to do something about it, and I did, and I think I'll live longer.
You You certainly look wonderful, and
Thank
we're so happy that you continue to keep acting today. What motivates you? Is it the roles? Is it the people you get to meet and work with? Why do you keep
It's
doing it?
usually the writers and the people we get to work with, but I've been lucky in the last 10 years. I've kind of taken an amateur approach. I've fallen in love with acting again, and it still mystifies me. It's strong in me, and I very much enjoy putting together that puzzle. It is a joy. It brings great joy and strength to my life.
John, thank you so much for talking to us here. Thank you for being the president of the Monte Carlo TV Festival.
Le Président.
Le Président. Just before we go, I do have to ask you, Hollywood's still in the midst of the writer's strike. How do you see that playing out for this year, for the Connors, for your other shows, for your other projects? What do you think about the strike?
It's too much to think about, and I try not to. Writers deserve everything. That's the first thing I look for. I know when it's right. I wish I could write myself. I'm too lazy and probably too stupid. I mean, it means everything. That's what we base everything on.
John Goodman, thank you so much. Monsieur le Président, merci beaucoup.
Merci.